Hello, this is Dr. Pete, and got an issue this morning with a student that was talking about honesty, or if you will, how accurate to describe things and give feedback, and also how to discuss things. There's a lot of questions about political correctness and things of that nature. And I can't fault the student because a lot of times they'll get into discussions that are, even with professors, there's a political, like say, ideology or a motive or some type of, let's say, an agenda. So, for example, when I teach political science class, there might be a question in a discussion post or an assessment, but I look at it from the perspective, are you writing the proper length? Are you organizing things, using good sources, citing, grammar? I mean, I'm looking at more of how you're presenting, what you're presenting, how you're researching versus what you're saying. Now, having said that, there are professors that may not take that same stance. They may allow their bias and prejudice in. I've seen this at some places of where I've taught. I've seen this. I've been victim of it as a student, so I understand. I understand that happens. I'm not trying to say it doesn't. I don't care if it's conservative, liberal, whatever. It's not really appropriate if a student's making an effort to show why their position's that way, then it should be taken as an academic piece of work, not so much they agree with your ideology. I just don't agree with that. Having said that, um, the problem too is when you get into discussion posts, there's some students and professors who are very sensitive, and they just simply cannot take disagreement. They don't know how to debate. They don't know how to discuss things. They really don't know how to research. And this goes for younger students and professors alike. You see these things out there. And by not being able to have that honest discussion, they simply try to close off debate. They either attack people, they make up things, they falsely make claims, and when you really challenge them, it's something that it really upsets them in a lot of ways. I tend to, it's not really, some people talk millennial snowflakes. There's a larger number of them. I get that. But you find this with every generation, and you find it with almost every group of people. The issue for me is do you have that mutual respect to allow students to have a free discussion? I mean, not saying things like "I hate you," "I want to die," making terrorist threats. I mean, obviously there's limits to that free discussion, but for the most part, as people respecting other people, you can have that free discussion. Now, from my experience, yes, there is one side that tends to be a little bit more aggressive, violent, and more combative. I have seen that. We see that in the news today. I think that backs up a lot of what I've experienced. I don't believe the ends justify violence. I don't believe that. And if you do take that path, then there's consequences and there's repercussions. But in the classroom, especially online, you don't really have the sense of violence, but you do get that bullying effect or you get that disrespect, and that can be a big issue. Um, when it comes to feedback, flipping this more from a, I had a teacher ask me just this weekend, how how do you really give feedback? Because some, schools always want to have this positive attitude, like everything has to be positive, like, oh my god, thank god you turned this in and it's wonderful and everything's great. And I'm like, well, sometimes it's not. Sometimes you got to tell a student, look, you got real writing problems, grammar and APA, and I had a student argue with me about their grammar and they spell I lowercase. Well, if you can't even spell I correctly, what do you want me to say? I mean, I can't really say anything positive other than thank you for turning your work in. I really appreciate reading it. But if you don't develop paragraphs and you don't use sources and cite things and check for grammar or spelling, just because a professor says, hey, there's all these things that need to be done, that doesn't mean they're being negative. They're just trying to help you. Now, if you take it as being negative, that's more on you, okay? And when you project onto other people or attack other people, that's really a time to step back and say, maybe I should think about what I'm doing as a person and understand that they're trying to help me do better. That's because they didn't blow smoke, so to speak, or talk about unicorns and rainbows and butterflies. Doesn't mean that they're mean people. It just means that they're being very honest with you. And I think if more people were honest and direct, I think that things would improve more. I think students would have more of a clear sense of this is where I'm at. which way do I want to go? Do I want to get better, to stay the same, or just kind of keep driving to the bottom? And I think that honesty is what's lacking. And I think some of that is professors may feel a sense of insecurity in their jobs. They may have been attacked by administrators. They may not have the confidence professionally to say what the truth is. Some students will start crying or be very ugly and attack. I just had one attack me the other day, and I said, "Did you read the feedback? Did you watch the videos?" And the answer is no. And I'm like, well, I can't really have a discussion with you till you read the feedback. And then they'll go into the attacks like, well, I don't like videos, or I don't like this, or I don't like that. Well, that doesn't change the fact that you did not write correctly, or you have grammatical errors, or the magic one I like, this is one of my favorites. Well, it doesn't matter how I write it. You need to look at what I'm saying, like what the content and the intent and what my analysis is. Well, unfortunately, when someone writes illiterately, or if you will, if they write like an illiterate, or they can't write things clearly, then that makes it where your analysis isn't all that great. And if someone's telling you, hey, you need to find sources to back up your claims, they're just trying to help you. Well, if you don't want to do research and you want to do this, like the students that take their phone and do their homework, that's ridiculous. I mean, in my mind, um, if you find yourself doing your homework on the phone, either you got a really bad problem, and I had students that have had like electric outages or internet outages. I can understand that. But there's a lot of students that do their homework on the phone, and I don't understand how you write a paper that way. I don't understand how you write and cite things and research. I can't do it. I mean, this is something that if I had to and I had nothing else, and I would rather contact the professor and call them and say, look, my power is out, my internet's out, can I please have an extra day? I'd rather have that conversation than trying to figure out how to do it on my phone. And I have a Note, Samsung Note, which is a bigger screen, and I still don't think I could do it. And I don't even know how they do it on iPads, to be honest. I can't. I mean, I'm looking at how I type, how I do videos. I don't see how people do it. So the point is that if people cannot be honest, then you're not really getting good feedback. You're not getting ways to do better. And if you just get an A for doing nothing, I'm going to tell you the moment that really hurts. I had a student contact me years later. They had another person email out something that was embarrassing. Like the research was horrible, the grammar was beyond pitiful, and the boss actually asked, which college did you go to? I need to know that. And they asked why. And the boss said, because we're never hiring anyone else again from that school. And I was like, wow. I said, well, how did you do? That's really what matters to me. You're my student. I'm not worried about the other one. And they said, oh, well, I can actually write paragraphs and I can and spell correctly. I was like, okay, how does that make you feel? And that student was very, very honest to me. They said, when I first had your feedback, I was embarrassed and upset, pissed off. A couple of expletives were put in there. Very ugly conversation. And I said, okay, that's normal. What happened? And they said, I actually sat back and reflected and said, this is about me, not about Dr. Pete, and he's just trying to do the best. And I changed the way I looked at things, and I've spent the next year and a half of school driving through grammar, spelling, APA research. So when I went to this company and other people, younger people were flaking out, and I feel this, I feel that, and here I am, hey, here's the research, this is developed ideas, I'm citing, I'm writing, I'm checking my grammar, and I got promoted, and people look at me and they say, what school did you go to? And I say where I went to school, and they go, we may need to look at them more. They seem to know what they're doing. And that's pretty cool. That's a good feeling. But it all starts with honesty. And if you're a professor and you can't be honest, then you might have a problem with where you're teaching, or you may have a problem professionally. If you're just doing it for money, just be honest about it. Say, I'm just here for money. That's fine. That at least you're being honest. But if you can't be honest to students and tell them that's inappropriate talking, I'm not going to be abused by that. Here's the feedback. Whatever, that's how it is. I mean, it doesn't mean you are disrespectful. It just means that you're doing it. Then you're really harming the students. Your motivation of money is, I mean, that's what a lot of people do things for, but it's not noble and it's not professional. And then on top of that, you either have an issue with yourself or with the school, and you need to sort that out. So, and that's talking to professors, but it also talking to students. You got to ask yourself why you're there. So, anyways, I think that covers that. I'm a very compassionate person. I want to make that clear. But having said that, I don't. I think honesty is part of that compassion. So, okay, best of luck, and hopefully that answered that topic. Thank you.